You know, for decades, cybersecurity was all about one big idea. Build a strong wall, a firewall, to keep the bad guys out. Simple enough, right? But what happens when that wall just disappears? That's what we're going to dig into today.
The classic model really was that simple. You had your digital castle, that's your company's network, and you built a big, strong moat around it. The thinking was, if you're inside, you're safe. If you're outside, you're a potential threat.
And that moat, our main line of defense, was the firewall. Its entire job was to be the gatekeeper, to check who was coming in and who was going out. If you made it inside, hey, you were considered one of the good guys, no questions asked.
And right there, that's the question that changes absolutely everything. Because in the world we live in now, our most valuable assets, our people, our data, they're almost never inside the castle walls anymore. They're everywhere. So how on earth do you protect them now?
Okay, so let's really dive into this whole fortress model. For a long time, it was built on a really simple and, honestly, a pretty effective idea that was all about physical location.
The core belief was this. Once you were in the building, once you logged into your computer at your desk, you were in. The system just trusted you, plain and simple, because of where you were. You were on the trusted list just by being there.
And hey, let's be fair. For a good long while, this worked. It worked really well. Back in the 90s, everyone was in one central office. Even through the 2000s, work mostly happened inside that building. That perimeter, that wall, it was clear and it held up for decades.
But then, well, everything changed. The very way we work, the technology, the culture, it all conspired to just completely erase that old, predictable perimeter.
All of a sudden, our data wasn't in a server room down the hall. It was floating in the cloud. Our teammates weren't at the next desk. They were at home, in coffee shops, at airports, all on networks we have zero control over. The office, as we knew it, just stopped having walls. And this new reality created a really dangerous situation. See, the biggest threat today isn't some hacker trying to smash through the firewall. No way. It's someone who has a stolen username and password. They don't have to break the door down. They can just use a key and walk right in. So to protect this new, borderless world, we needed a totally new philosophy, a completely radical shift in thinking, one that's not built on trusting people by default, but on a kind of constant, healthy skepticism. In this chart, it just nails the difference. We go from trust by default to trust is never assumed. We stop caring so much about where you are and start focusing on who you are. And we don't just check you at the front door, we check you for every single thing you try to do every single time. It's a total flip. It all boils down to this one simple, powerful mantra that guides everything. Never trust, always verify. Now that doesn't mean trust is dead. It just means trust has to be earned over and over again. Okay, so that all sounds good in theory. But what does this philosophy actually look like in the real world? How does it work? Well, it's built on a few core pillars of constant verification. So first, you have to prove you are who you say you are, usually with something like multi-factor authentication. Second, the system checks the device you're using. Is it secure? Is it up to date? And third, it checks that specific request. Does this user on this device actually have permission to do that thing right now? Now here's where it gets really, really clever. This is how zero trust stops a bad day from turning into a catastrophe. In the old model, if an attacker got in, they could roam freely, hopping from system to system. But with zero trust, the network's broken into tiny, isolated zones. If one part gets compromised, the attacker is trapped there. It's like locking them in a closet instead of letting them run all over the house.
And this part is absolutely crucial. Trust is never permanent. It's temporary, and it's all about context. The system is constantly asking questions. Is this person logging in from a weird location? Did the device suddenly become insecure? Is their behavior strange? Trust has to be re-earned, literally moment to moment.
Now I have to be really clear about something. You can't just go to the store and buy a box labeled Zero Trust. It's just not a product you can turn on with a switch. At its heart, Zero Trust is a journey. It's a strategy. It's a whole new way of thinking about security that requires big changes not just in technology, but maybe even more importantly, in how a company operates. Yeah, making this happen really is a team sport. It takes everyone from IT to HR to get on board. It means updating old systems, training people on new security habits, and honestly, having the patience to see a long-term plan through.
It's a marathon, for sure, not a sprint. So, when you put it all together, what's the big picture? What's the main idea you should walk away with from this whole evolution?
The core message is actually pretty simple. Those static, unmoving walls we used to rely on, they just don't cut it anymore. In a world where work happens everywhere, our security has to be just as flexible and mobile. It has to travel with us, protecting our data wherever it happens to be.
And that kind of leaves us with a really fascinating thought to end on. Maybe zero trust isn't really about getting rid of trust. Maybe, in this super connected world we live in, it's about building trust on a much stronger, much smarter foundation, one where trust isn't just assumed, it's proven.